Good. Okay. I'm going to begin just by asking what it was that initially attracted you both to getting involved in The Keeper.
So I went through an audition process actually, and was in the room with David for the first audition because you were in London, kind of auditioning with various other actresses, and I was immediately drawn to the script. I think it was such an interesting angle to tell a true story, to tell a biopic, but the director and the writing seemed to encompass so much more. It was so much about the universe and the characters and the sort of the stakes. So it didn't read as this sort of one-sided biopic. It read as this this whole world that Marcus wanted to create. And then after meeting Marcus and David and getting a sense of their energy, it was massively appealing.
I was just wondering, too, is because I know that you're saying that you didn't know much about this story beforehand, but since you sort of got the role and you started speaking to friends or family, did you find that he's a name that is known in Germany? Was he someone that people are aware of, or did you still find when this film's being released that it's still Bert Trautmann in Germany is still a relatively kind of unknown figure?
I think he's not that well known in Germany. He's in a couple of places, especially in the north of Germany. We went to Bremen with the film as well, where he's from. People knew about him and knew about his story, but in the whole, he's not that well known. And I think this is also due to the fact that he wasn't part of the national team in Germany when they won the World Cup '54. And because they didn't consider players who were playing in foreign countries at the moment. The film also really tells how football was at that age, at that time. And it was very different. And it was, for me, I played football myself when I was younger. It was really like a dream come true to play someone who was one of the best goalkeepers at the time.
Were you any good at football when you were younger?
I was good, and but I never stood in the goal, and I had to have a goalkeeping trainer, and for 4 months I went to train to learn about to be one of the best goalkeepers. I had to learn how to stand like a goalkeeper, how to, he was very fearless as a goalkeeper. He always went head first and had long throws. That was also his speciality, and we had to get that right. Yes.
So how were the football scenes shot? Because they look great on the big screen. I mean, you really got a sense that when they were playing at Wembley that it was actually at Wembley, which obviously wasn't, but it looked great.
It was all in Bavaria on a green pitch where there was nothing else. So it's all CGI later, but it was how to say, it was as an actor, it's always you shoot the film, and then when you see it the first time, it was very exciting to see how they made up all this Wembley Stadium with all the spectators and all the atmosphere. And I think Marcus, the director, was very, very good with it, because he played football himself as well, and he was very enthusiastic about these scenes, and we just
very.
We just saw him running around behind camera to create some atmosphere for for all the extras to cheer and to boo or whatever they did, and so that was very important for him.
And Freya, because obviously I was wondering if you harboured any interests and ambitions yourself to make films kind of in other nations and around Europe. And you mentioned you've got a French production with French and Germany coming up. I was wondering, because us Brits, we don't seem to be very good at going off and doing that, in a sense. I mean, obviously you have Kristen Scott Thomas, and I think Gemma Arterton started making films in France. But generally, and it's the same for football, as we don't have many footballers going and playing in Spain or Germany and France. Why do you think it might be that as a nation, a Great Britain, we don't seem to want to go out very often?
It's bizarre, but I do think there's an island mentality. I do think the fact that we're not attached to Europe, we're actually physically removed, and it does create a sense of distance, whether people accept it or not. I think there's something really interesting about you know, even now, what's going on with all the political upheaval in the UK, we're still quite polite and careful. And whereas in France at the moment, there's a lot of very violent rioting, and people have it in their history that their democracy is very active. They go to the streets, they protest actively, whereas we're more subjects of royalty, whether you believe in that or not. So I do think that it also that spills out into exactly like cinema, football. In France, the football team is incredibly varied in terms of where people are from and the diversity of it. And I think it's a shame because it's created things like Brexit. There you go.
And I just found you both mentioned before that you've got sort of Netflix stuff coming up. I was wondering, because obviously there's been this debate of late with obviously Roma being up for Best Picture and everyone deciding does it count as being part of the Academy Awards because it's a Netflix film? But there's been filmed, like for example, Roma, which is obviously a 2.5-hour foreign language film, black and white with no huge stars in it. And all of my friends watched it. Had it been in the cinema, I'm not sure if many of them would have gone to pay to go and see it. So are you both sort of firmly of the opinion that these streaming services like Netflix or Amazon are a good thing for the industry at the moment?
I think it's for me, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because it has exactly that, the capacity to bring independent cinema or foreign cinema into the everyday, and it can introduce exactly like huge numbers to things they wouldn't have gone to see themselves in the cinema. But there's also there's a fear of independent film being sort of dying bit by bit, and cinema kind of having less films, having less value, so it being harder for directors to make projects happen. But for sure, I think with everything changes, and you have to adapt to what people are watching, in that time and place. So I think it's you're getting a lot more really brilliant content that's coming to series or that's coming to streaming services. So I think I think if we all adapt with it, then it can be a really good thing.
Cool. Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.